welcome to the CXC.world beta tech deep dive. My name is Douglas. I'm the chief visionary as well as the tech dude of Current Exchange, the creators of this map. Now, first off, I'm going to introduce you to three colorful characters. We've got T-Mac, Greg, as well as Curtis. So let's start out by getting to know the system itself, right? So we have a geotemporal system, meaning you can search for locations. So you can search for any nation in the world, and then you'll only be given the music from right there. And what's also cool is if you go over here, you get the top 64 charts just from that area. Now, the second part of this is when we get into meeting T-Mac, and he is the time machine. So T-Mac is right over here. And yeah, so this is the time machine, and this is Greg. Greg is part of T-Mac, and he is the Gregorian time display. And so what we've done is we've broken down everything into time units, right? And time units correspond to 1 5-minute unit in time, as well as one piece of currency, which is the soul that you get for free every single day for being a user. And yeah, so everything is based on this as well as the charts. I wanted to jump in and explain why we have these 5-minute time units. Everything in our system is based on base 12. So we have 288 time units per day. That's 12 times 12 times 2. There's 12 time units per hour. And when you're looking for a specific time unit display, you're only searching for when the upvotes happened. So we know exactly what time unit these upvotes belong to, and that's how we're able to search through them. And it's also what allows us to cache the display, because once we make a display of September 2021, that never changes. So we can search for any time span based on these time units. But also sometimes you just want a Gregorian display, like you want to see all of the music that has received ups in 2020. And now you see that right there. So yeah, you can go to any week. Some of these, I'm testing, so some of these probably don't have any data, but yeah. And if you'd like a more tailored display, you can go down and actually manually select any time span, whether that be month, week, year, and then just hit Run Time Machine, and you'll get that display of just that time. And you can combine these two, so you can search for a location within a time. Yeah, we also have like displays for actual cities, counties, and states just within the United States. And we're going to be bringing out all of them soon, but you got to start somewhere. So yeah, we just started with these. And now let's meet Curtis. So Curtis is our currency display, and Curtis is reading from the blockchain to get your information that you need. He's got information about your solar disk, which is going to hold your soul and allow us to control that soul as far as the smart contracts action side of things, so that we can prevent you from sharing this soul, because this is you. This is how you shine. And in order to do our game mechanics, we've got to have these souls staked to an NFT. So that's going to be available here, as well as we've got all kinds of links to get you quickly to the necessary swaps. And we're going to add some LP pool links here, as well as Everstone functionality. So this is reading on chain, and just to show you that, let's go over to Alcor, and I'm going to unstake some liquidity that I have, and that way we can see if this is working or not. So let's take out a little bit of purple BLUX. I'm going to withdraw that. And now that we have our tokens, we can head back and refresh. And it's actually might take a minute. Let's see. Okay, so now we have our tokens here. Cool. All right, so now we've met T-Mac, Curtis, and Greg. Let's see how all this actually works. So we've got a geotemporal database, and the reason we're doing this is, number one, to save costs. Now, whenever somebody posts a piece of music on the map, we use our geotemporal or our geospatial database to determine all of the upper level jurisdictions that it belongs to. So if you post in Accident, Maryland, I know you're in Garrett County, I know you're in Maryland and in the United States. So we could just call to an API to do that, but that costs per call. So instead, I've built this geotemporal database that we can get all this information as well as do like all kinds of cool stuff in the future as well as right now with this. So yeah, just to show you, so we're in the database right now, and this is the geometry viewer, and it lets us see all of these geometry objects which are in the database, and it's only going to show some of them because we're not querying for all of the results, but that's what it looks like is those shape files. Sorry guys, my computer is freaking out, but yes, we also have US cities, and we can do the exact same thing. So let's look at the results. And just like before, we have a geometry object with every single city in America. And whenever you post, we do a st distance function to determine how far you are and then group you into the nearest city, and then use that information to extrapolate upward all the information we need to store. Now, how does that get stored? That gets stored in our songs table. Now, I'm all about data structuring, but our songs table is not quite normalized because we're going for performance. So we store all the relevant information because this is a high read table and highly indexable. So we have the information that we need, the city name, the county name, and the state name there, which is allows us to index and get great performance on these queries. Speaking of performance, I built something really cool that I'm really proud of. It's a custom caching, and if we go over to here, we cache all the Gregorian displays. So everything that Greg shows, we don't have to calculate that every single time. We can just store these information, so this is the year and the month, and we actually store all the results as a JSON-B object, which then we can quickly pull back and send out to the front end. As well as the cool thing about JSON-B is we can actually query inside of the binary object, which is like virtually unheard of. So it's really cool that Postgres allows us to do that. So yeah, that's the basis of the geo system. We also have the temporal system. Originally it was built quite simply like this. And you may have heard me said, I built this whole system first on Web 2.0, and now we're transitioning to Web 3.0. So this is like the old way to do it, and now we do it in a different way. In order to make this work, we can't be querying all the information on chain all the time. It's just impossible. So what we do is we synchronize it with the database. We have a time stamp, and we have a TUID. So we figure out from the last 5 minutes, and every 5 minutes we run this query and we listen for all the transfer actions, and when they've happened, we go ahead and put the transaction ID here, and then we reconfirm it whenever it settles on the blockchain. We also do this in sort of the other way with SolUps. We first put SolUps into the database, and then every 5 minutes we read from the database and then send out the necessary BLUX. So let's jump over to the code. Now this is the first thing that loads. This is how we get our map, and we're using a free thing called Leaflet.js, a open source library using OpenStreetMap data. Shout out Stamen. Stamen Designs provides our map tiles also for free. Super grateful for them. They're the reason that the map looks so good, and I'll continue to give them shout outs all the time that or every chance that I can. All right, and over here we have our parameters file, which stores stuff like our golden ratio series, which we use to calculate the dot sizes, as well as all of our map style options, things like the genre options, how they will be displayed, everything like that. It also makes it super easy for me to add genres and things like that. And like if I just add one line here, I can add a new genre or a new type and it'll just seamlessly work. So if you want new genres, don't hesitate to let me know. I can and will add it. Back to the application, we've got this markers.js file. It's not a library, I just wrote it, but it does pretty much most of the heavy lifting to get everything on the map. We're doing really cool things with rewriting the URLs and using custom URLs in beta. So I've got that down in the htaccess file. So yeah, you can use these quick URLs to then get to anything from a Gregorian time to the specific time unit. Like, we just went through these things, as well as relative times. Like if you want to go to the past week and month, the location, you could do location searches right from the URL. So I'm pretty stoked about this. I'm super glad I took the time to learn how to edit htaccess files. So it's going to be all pretty looking URLs in the beta, but the ugly URLs will still work. Back over to markers.js, we're using a 3-point data. So we have 3 points of data. We have your cookies, we have your stored preferences, and we have the URL. So we default to the URL, and if we don't have those, we will go to your preferences to get certain things like what type of map you want and things like that, right? So this is all this. It basically determines which tables in the database we're going to be querying, and once we expand to other places, we just have to use a switch statement to determine what country we were in so we can get the localized data from there. So yeah, we're getting shapes here. If we need a shape file, that's where we get it. And the rest of this is kind of building the HTML and everything else that happens to make the music pop up, right? So for example, this is the CXC circle marker, and this has all of the information which actually is stored on these dots, right? So that's how we can have this this thing pop up and decide how big to put these, is we store that information on the dot itself. So yeah, I'm not really sure what else to show you. It's it's a PHP site. We're using a PHP back end. Oh yeah, so speaking of that, we are using a PHP backend, but I've realized that Node.js is the proper option. And I started coding when I was 16, and Node.js did not exist. I'm 29 now, so that was 13 years ago. But yeah, so I started using PHP. I've always used PHP, but now I'm moving towards Node.js, and that's what we're doing to run our payments. Now, eventually, I do want to move this more on chain, but for now, we're basically building these transactions based on our database, right? Or in this instance, we're actually reading all that data on chain, and then okay, so we're using this get table rows, and we're getting all the data on chain, and then we're using JS to schedule these functions. And I built a custom scheduler abstraction, I guess you could think of it, to send these contracts actions from an array. So I just have an array of objects. I push whatever I need in there, and then I have a function that will slowly dish out those transactions on the blockchain in a way that doesn't bog down the block producers, it doesn't bog down the APIs, and also ensures that things go through. So guys, that's about it. There's of course lots of other things I could show you, but you probably don't want to sit here and watch all of this code all day. But it's really exciting stuff, and I wanted to give you a general overview of how this application works. I'm super stoked to deliver it to you, and I know that it's been taking a little bit longer, but that's mostly because I've just been throwing other things from ahead of the roadmap into now. Like, we weren't even supposed to do music NFTs until all this was launched, but I decided that that's what the people wanted, so we did music NFTs first, and now we're starting to get back to getting ready to launch this token system. So thanks for checking us out, and if you want to check out the map as it is now, go to cxc.world, And yeah, this is our NFT displays. We just added videos today, so if you have a video, it will work with the map now. And whenever beta is ready, it will just pop up to the same website. I may put a little testing like beta.cxc.world or something like that for early adopters. We'll see what happens when it happens, but thanks for being here. Thanks for checking it out. You can find all of our links at linktr.ee/cxc.world.